please ignore the Christmas decorations on my bookshelf. I mean, you know what Taylor Swift said, we can leave the Christmas lights up till January, so I have a couple more days until I am officially judge-worthy. I wasn't going to talk about the premise, right? But here I am talking about the premise. Hi everyone, my name is Julia and I'm so glad you're here. Welcome back to my channel. I am so sorry that this channel has been stagnant for, I think, 2 years. I haven't filmed anything recent in the past 2 years and I'm really sorry about that. But I really wanted to film this video. Originally, it was supposed to be me talking about the 26 books that I read in 2020, but I realized that 26 books is a lot and I don't want to bore you guys with all of that. But yes, I read 26 books in 2020. It was a great reading year for me. My goal was 20 books, but your girl was extra and she read an extra 6. So I'm going to be talking about the 10 best books that I read in 2020. So these books weren't released in 2020. I just read them last year. And this is in no particular order. I'm just gonna pick these books up and talk about them as I go. So I won't be talking about the premise of the book since I don't want this video to be super long, but I will be leaving their Goodreads links for you guys to check out. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this video and let's get on with the books. Okay, so the first book that I see here is Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. And oh my gosh, this book was like floating on a fluffy cloud. Honestly, this book was so light and so happy and just an all-around fun read. So it follows the Prince of England and the president's son, so the first son of the United States, and their enemies. They decided that they hated each other, and sorry, sidetrack, if you know me, I love the enemies to lovers trope. You'll actually see a very common theme in these books. The romance books are mostly enemies to lovers. Sorry, I have a type. This book follows these two characters on the cover, and it's just an amazing journey of self-discovery and love and friendship and family. And if you're into that, I highly recommend that you pick this book up. I feel like everyone talked about this in 2019, and rightfully so. It's such a fun book, and I remember reading it and just gasping and squealing. It was a fun time, and I highly enjoyed it. The next book that I see here is actually a middle grade book, and middle grade books, I feel like they deserve a lot more hype. You may think that they're for kids, but honestly, I feel like even adults should be reading this. And the book that I read was Trainee Ride by Mosier. This was actually a random find in the Big Bad Wolf book sale back in Feb of 2020. And honestly, it was a cover buy. I was extremely drawn to the cover. As you can see, it's beautiful, honestly. And the story itself is absolutely moving. I remember being floored and touched and so moved. And I read this at a very special time in my life. So I read this around my 23rd birthday, and I definitely won't forget this reading experience. Middle grade books honestly hold so much wisdom and lessons in such a few amount of pages. This is, I believe, 178 if I'm not mistaken. And I picked up so much life lessons from this book. It, not to be cheesy, but I feel like it changed my life. It follows this girl, and obviously she's on a train, and this book really just showcases how much our presence makes an impact by simply being ourselves. So it really talks about individuality and self-discovery and self-awareness, and how your presence in this world is more than enough, and it's enough to impact the people even in the most mundane of situations or places, like a train. So I highly recommend that you pick this up. Sorry, my brother sneezed. Lol, I don't know if you heard that. Next, the book that I'm going to be talking about is a heavy hitter, surprisingly so since it's a very thin book, and it is Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ng. And this was actually recommended to me by one of my favorite booktubers ever. Her name is actually, or YouTuber, she just recently came out with a booktube channel. Her name is Carrie Cakes. I love her recommendations, and this was one of them. And honestly, I was so moved by Celeste Ng's writing. From the get-go, I knew that I was gonna love this book so much, and I did. Once again, I was so surprised by how quick I read this book, given how heavy the topics are. Just to give you a forewarning, it is such a heavy book. There was so much to unpack. Misogyny, racism, suicide, quite toxic family dynamics. If you are to read this, tread it lightly, and I don't recommend that you read it as fast as I did, but I just really wanted to know what happened. So this book follows a Chinese American family and their journey once they find out that Lydia has passed away, and you kind of jump through different timelines, so you actually learn more about the mom, the dad, and then the siblings, and Lydia herself. So the next book that I'm going to talk about is actually one of my favorite romance reads ever. I feel like this is the Bible of all hate to romance. Well, okay, so maybe it's not Pride and Prejudice. I know that is the blueprint for the enemies to lovers trope. But this one is also equally as amazing, though it's not a classic or anything, but it's a classic to me. This is The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. Oh my gosh, I have nothing but praises for this book. So yes, it is an enemies to lovers trope. Are we surprised at this point? Honestly, I have nothing to say. It is set in the office and they are rivals. It is so romantic. It is steamy. It is just all around a great time. The banter, mwah, chef's kiss, amazing. I have nothing but good words to say about this. I always recommend this to people who are looking for romance and who love the enemies to lovers trope as much as I do. Next, another enemies to romance book. Oh god, I really love the trope, especially if it's done well. I can't get enough of the trope. But anyway, this one, I read it twice in 2020. So one via ebook and the other time via audiobook. And I'm so glad that I actually have a hard copy of it already. And it is Today, Tonight, Tomorrow by Rachel Lynn Solomon. Oh my god, this book. Okay, so it's set in Seattle, and we have Rowan and Neil, these academic rivals, and it's their last day of senior year, and they're all on a scavenger hunt across Seattle. And they end up teaming up, and it's just great because, you know, like, they're academic rivals, they've been at it ever since, and you just see them forming a bond and getting to know one another a lot better, and it's just a great time. Like, I was crying, I was laughing, I was squealing, I felt everything. And I actually recommended this to my friend Bea, who also loves the enemies to lovers trope, the academic rivals trope, and we did nothing but fangirl over this book, and we really bonded over it. So I highly recommend, if you want to feel all the feels, please pick this book up. If you want a taste of enemies to lovers, if you want an introduction to enemies to lovers, these two books are the way to go. We have like office rivals, academic rivals. Oh god, my Bibles, basically. So the next book that I read was actually recommended by Cindy Pham on YouTube. She's called Read with Cindy, or I think she recently rebranded to With Cindy. She's actually the reason why I got into Booktube in the first place. I fell into a deep, dark rabbit hole called Booktube, and it's all thanks to her. She makes amazing videos, and she's so funny, and she's so smart. She gives great recommendations as well. So if you're into, like, book reactions or book reviews, book roasts, movie reactions, I highly recommend that you check Cindy out. I'll also leave her in the description down below. But yes, the book that she recommended was Lovely War by Julie Berry, and oh god, this book. This book is a historical fiction set in World War I, I believe. So there are two love stories in this book, and the love story is narrated by a Greek goddess, namely Aphrodite. And there's actually a full cast of Greek gods. So we have Ares, Hades, and Aphrodite, and just, it's such a beautiful book. It's honestly as if gods and goddesses wrote the book themselves. So it was very clear to me that this author did her research while writing this book, because she included the involvement of African Americans in the World War, and one of the stories, or the love stories, actually centers around an African American man and everything that they went through and their involvement in the war. And there are actually historical references at the end, so if you want more information on their involvement or other things with regards to the war, like exporting Jim Crow, the Hero's Welcome, women, and World War I, Again, she really put so much care and effort into researching about this book. It's such a fresh take on an overused story such as a war story. So you have Greek gods and goddesses narrating a love story and a war story, which honestly doesn't get any better than that. And as you can see, I tabbed so many lines because, like I said, the writing is beautiful. What can I say? The next book that I read, oh gosh, this book holds a very special place in my heart. And it's called The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. And this was recommended to me by my grade 7 room advisor. So Miss Jen, if you're watching, thank you so much for recommending this book to me. It changed my life. I didn't know much going into it, but I knew that everyone that read this book loved it. As you can see, once again, I have tabbed a lot of lines in this book, and this book talks about bigotry, discrimination, acceptance, and humanity. This story is so important. And I'm so glad that it came out in the year that it did. I don't want to talk too much about it in fear of spoiling the story, but it talks about this man's journey towards self-discovery and journey towards being open to other people and opening himself up and just loving his life and everything. So it was such a special read, and I highly recommend this to everyone. Like, if you want to get moved to tears, I was moved to tears. I was sobbing like a baby toward the end, and you just connect with everyone in this book. It's such an important story to tell, and I'm so glad that I read it, and I feel like everyone should read it as well. I think we're approaching like the last few books. The next book that I'm gonna be talking about is Beach Read by Emily Henry, and oh gosh, I read this book so fast. Again, oh god, it's the enemies to lovers trope once again, but we have two authors. So this is set in a coastal town. Wow, very Taylor Swift, no, coastal town. And two authors who write different genres. So we have the girl January, who writes romance novels, and we have August. Hey, editing Julia here. I am so sorry. The guy's name is Augustus, not August, which is an amazing Taylor Swift song. Okay, back to the video. Who writes literary fiction. And one person thinks that the other person's genre is so easy to write, and so they both find themselves in creative ruts or like writer's block. So they decide to switch genres, and romance blossoms. Spoiler. But what I really liked about this book is that it actually tackled some heavy topics in such a refreshing and mature way. And I really enjoyed this. The romance was great. The family dynamic was also great. And I finished it in like 1 or 2 sittings. It was a great time. So the next book that I'm going to be talking about is a book that honestly I feel like encapsulates me as a person. If you know me, I love Christmas so much. I love books. I love bookstores. I love New York. The book is Dash and Lily's Book of Dares by Rachel Kahn and David Levitan, which is actually the first YA book that I have read in such a long time. And oh god, when I saw the trailer, I was like, I need to read that book ASAP. And I did. I loved it so much. I don't know, there's something about YA that really draws me to it. I don't know, is it the snarky, very unrealistic male character who's brooding and like very deep? Or is it the manic pixie dream girl, the I'm not like other girls type of girl? I mean, I can't relate to her, but I loved it. I love this book so much. It's so special to me, and I highly recommend this. Like, it's really me in a book. We have Christmas, bookstore, New York. Can't get any better than that. So the last book that I'm going to be talking about is such a special book to me. Unfortunately, I don't have the hard copy with me to show it to you because I lent it to my friend. You see, that's how much I want people to read this book. And it is called The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. And this book, oh god, I knew from the first few chapters that this book was gonna ruin me, and it did, and in the best way possible. This book actually received so much hype in the past year, and rightfully so. It is so beautifully written. The story is great. The characters are great. Honestly, sorry, forget the 7 husbands. Evelyn Hugo is the star of the show, and I have nothing but great things to say about the story and how it progressed. It talks about feminism. It talks about race. It talks about love and self-discovery and coming into your own and friendships. And it's such a special book with such a special message, and I really have nothing but great things to say about it. If you like looking into people's lives, so this book is set in 1950s Hollywood, so if you like celebrity gossip and all of that, like, I highly recommend that you pick this up. Also, if you liked Ryan Murphy's show Hollywood on Netflix, I also highly recommend that you get The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. It's very similar, they talk about the same topics, and it's such an amazing book. I hope it gets turned into a movie because I'd love probably like Ana de Armas. Oh my god, she'd be a great Evelyn Hugo. Please read it. You're gonna cry, you're gonna laugh, and you're really gonna connect with the characters. I know I did, and I feel like Taylor Jenkins Reid did such a great job humanizing these stars and these celebrities who feel so out of reach. But yeah, okay, sorry, I'm really going on and on about that book. It's amazing. Oh no. Yikes, so my camera died in the middle of filming. So those were my favorite reads of 2020, but of course I didn't want to end this video without shouting out an honorable mention, and it is the Harry Potter series. And if you guys know me, you would know that I am such a huge Potterhead. I grew up watching the movies. It was my childhood, my brother and I's childhood actually, and we really just watched the movies on repeat growing up as kids. Back when we were in elementary school, that's all we did. We had like notebooks wherein we'd fill it with spells, and we'd have duels and all of that, and it really formed our childhood. And surprisingly enough, we didn't read the books. I actually got most of my book knowledge from fan fiction, which honestly deserves another video, one that I will never make because I do not want to embarrass myself. But I got most of my book knowledge from fanfics, and I thought that I was set. But obviously, the Potterhead experience isn't complete if you don't read the books. And I know that J.K. Rowling has been spewing some really problematic statements with regards to the trans community, and it really sucks, you know, when you read these books and this story, the Harry Potter story, is so special to you, and you find out that its creator is such a horrible person. It's such a harsh reality to face. Like, when I saw all of that unfold, like in the past years, I was just like, oh god, why? Like, it's hard to believe that this woman who created such a wonderful world and has such great, strong characters, and for her to be like so far from that is so crazy to me. And I know it's really hard, and there's that discussion of separating the artist from the art, and I actually want to know what you guys think about that discussion. I know there's a lot of discourse when it comes to that. But yes, my brother and I, we both buddy read the Harry Potter series together, and just to like nerd out a bit, every time we'd finish reading a book, we'd watch the corresponding movie, and to make things even more nerdy, have the book right beside us, and we consult it while watching the movie just to see if we missed out on anything or if the movie missed out on anything, which clearly it did. But if you wanted to know, my favorite book was Prisoner of Azkaban. Great. I love Sirius Black, and Order of the Phoenix, also really great. Great books. And yes, those were the books that I loved reading in 2020. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you made it to the end of this video, oh my god, thank you so much. Be sure to like and subscribe, and hit the notification bell button down below if you want to get notified whenever I post a new video. I really hope I get to make more book videos for you guys soon. Let me know what videos you want to see from me, and if you have any book suggestions, please let me know. Or if I recommended a book to you in the past and you loved it, let me know as well. Thank you guys so much. I hope to see you in my next video. Take care, stay safe, and goodbye. Mwah.